You're listening to the Nerd to Know Media Network. Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Nerd to Know Basis here on Nerd to Know Media. This is our second interview, and myself and Katie are joined by Sean from the Geek, Eire podcast. Sean, welcome to the show, sir.
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So we have a bunch. We came across your podcast actually through the anime lockdown con. So how was your experience with that? How did you hear about it, and what do you think overall?
I thought it was a fantastic. I actually heard about it from. He used to be a podcaster and sort of one of the people to help me sort of establish my own podcast in the beginning. He was friends with the organizer of the convention and said, "Here, you should check out, see if you could apply for a panel for it." So contact and say, "Is there any prerequisites of applying for a panel?" He says, no, it would help if you had panel experience, which, you know, I've been doing panels in the UK and Ireland for years now. So I jumped for the opportunity to sort of do it.
Oh, cool. And what time are you guys on at? Did you pre-tape or was it live?
We were live. We were, it would have been 8:30 Irish time when we did it.
Oh, well, yeah, you guys were lucky. We were
way better than our slot.
We were on at 1 a.m. So it was a bit of a different experience. But yeah, overall, I thought it was quite an interesting, unique take on the panel idea. You know, all of us still being on lockdown. Was the turnout good? Were you happy enough?
Turnout was excellent. There was like 400 people on the Twitch for my panel. Now it's rough in the beginning because you're one of the first ever panels, and you're following all the industry releases. So people are extra critical because, you know, they're after announcing, you know, how many releases for, you know, a remake that's after coming out or some Blu-ray special collector's edition. So, you know, anxiety probably was one of a big concern sort of on my point, you know, just a little bit nervousness since they're a completely new audience that wasn't sort of used to.
Right. But you're like one thing I found, and, you know, Katie didn't realize the chat opened up until like near the end. But we were amazed how friendly and interactive the chat actually were.
Oh, the chat was absolutely friendly. Probably one of the biggest highlights for me is like I'm used to doing, you know, panels and seeing people's faces.
Yeah.
So my panel was on like the world's strangest anime. So it's either going through the background of, you know, a strange production process, or like one of the things we covered was like two anime films that were basically made to promote a death cult in Japan.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Called Happy Science. And one of them was proposed for an Oscar.
No way.
Proposed. They didn't say nominated or won.
Right.
They were hoping, though.
They had belief, though.
It had big names on the production staff, like Tom Kenny, the guy who does SpongeBob. He did one of the dub voices, and Carly Wahlberg, who does Haruko from Fooly Cooly, were two of the voice actors in it.
For a death cult?
For Death Cult production.
Wow.
And they were aware of this?
Oh, either they weren't aware or they were, I don't know, drunk or high at the time. I'm still trying to figure out what was the reasoning behind this. You know?
Oh my God.
I mean, if somebody offers you a big enough paycheck, you know, sometimes it doesn't really matter what it's for.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
But we showed a clip. It's an infamous scene from an anime called Melody of Oblivion, where it's cowgirls getting milked. And all you're hearing is mooing.
Like cowgirls or cowgirls? Cowgirls. Anime is wild.
Oh my God.
And all I see in the chat coming up is like, because I'm all tense because, you know, I'm after coming off of something serious and we're talking about something joking now. I'm not sure how it's going to land. And the whole chat starts mooing.
Oh Lord.
Oh.
Oh well. Okay, right. Well, I have to ask. Now that we've gone down this path, what are some other weird animes that people can watch?
Ooh, let's see here. There is Dream Hunter Rem, which was originally the first episode. It was meant to be a hentai, and the production company decided this is way too good to be a hentai. Let's turn it into a series. And they actually just like, yeah, this is a seinen show where she has the ability to go into people's dreams and basically defeat nightmares. So
Right.
the first episode, yeah, tentacle creature, of course, because it's starting off as a hentai.
Yeah.
Second one, she gets shot by Satan and killed. And it just so it goes completely over the top. It's one of the most obscure, random craziness that's completely hand-drawn that you could come up with.
Right. That's wild. That's so wild.
There is another one called The Lady of Camilla, or Shoujo Tsubaki is the Japanese name. And it's so infamously rare to find a hard copy of it because every actual physical copy has been burned and banned in numerous countries.
Why?
Because it is the story about a girl who her mother dies of the plague and she gets taken in by a circus and forcefully married to a midget.
Okay.
And it's the most surreal, like, I think it costs like $15,000 to actually make it, and the producer, the filmmaker, actually had to fund it out of his own pocket because no production company wanted to touch it.
I wonder why.
And then only a couple of years ago, they turned it into a live action film.
You're joking.
I could send you a link, but you can get the full animated film on YouTube, and you can get the trailer anyway of the live action on YouTube as well. So.
Oh wow. Well, there we go, Katie. I think we have something to watch.
Yeah. Move over, sleepover club.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. So I gotta ask. Well, obviously, from my understanding of Anime Lockdown Con, the panels are being uploaded to the YouTube channel. So ours isn't up yet, and I don't think yours is up yet either. So I think once that's up, we will be popping a link to your panel because that sounds incredible. I think there's enough there to intrigue anybody. I swear when Keane hears this, he's going to freak out. He's going to be like, oh, I'm still there. I have questions. But yeah, so like your podcast is mainly based on like anime, otaku stuff and like the weirder side of that genre, like beyond just, you know, even to myself, I would be kind of more mainstream in my anime approach. What got you guys started? How did this come about?
So when I initially was in college, this shows you how old I'll be. This is before there was YouTube. There was Google Video, and most anime podcasts were sort of big because no one really used podcasts back then.
Mm.
This was maybe around, early 2000s where you're uploading it onto, your iPod.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff I was listening to were various different anime podcasts because in my first year of college, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about, gaming or anime. Like I went to Athlone. I was the only one from my sort of area that went to Athlone College, and there wasn't even a science fiction club at the time. And then when I changed to Ballyfermot College to do interactive multimedia production, podcasts were starting getting popular, audiobooks were started getting involved, and I started learning sort of the basics of audio production, sort of how to clean up to the best of my abilities at the time, using Adobe Audition. So I learned sort of all those sort of skills then. And when the recession kind of hit, I was, working from internship to internship. I was able to sort of, in a makeshift way, try to do an anime podcast and sort of get involved with it. So I learned sort of a lot of the basics from sort of the podcasts that I used to listen to, like even sort of format talking about sort of the sort of otaku-based news from the likes of Anime Pulse is probably the oldest anime podcast that's still running at this point. They started like 2001, and I think they're still running today.
Wow, that's 19 years. That's crazy. Because yeah, as you said, like the podcasting thing now is completely different to even the way it was 10 years ago. I can only imagine what it was like 20 years ago.
Oh yeah,
Completely different world.
A lot of it is sort of talking about sort of the sort of otaku or geeky news. I've met, and some of it is just sort of talking to interesting people. Like some of the people I've listened to is Spike Spencer, who you might remember from Neon Genesis.
Yep.
Listening to his, when I first interviewed him, he started talking about, just after Neon Genesis happened, he found out his girlfriend at the time was cheating on him and with his best friend. And he went bankrupt due to the recession that was happening at the time. And he was living out of his car and he had to build his self back up.
Jeez.
So I was trying to help him sort of promote his book at the time. I was like, geez, I've never heard of that type of story before, especially like everyone talks about sort of the good times. When you go to a VA thing, Calibert, Veronica Taylor, they always talk about sort of the good moments, and they never really talk about the ups and downs. Just hearing that type of process of, you're going to get a lot of kicks no matter what industry you're in, but it's trying to hear about yourself come back up.
And is that kind of like what the aim of the podcast is now? Because you guys have been around for a very long time. Did it reboot at one point, or is there like different lifespans of it?
Sort of different lifespans. It was originally started with me and a secondary school friend of mine, Damien Mullally, and we, he didn't really have much interest in sort of continuing the podcast, but I sort of kept on going. Even when I started working a job, it was something, I could help sort of create and sort of still somewhat stay connected. We've tried different formats before, whether it's, trying to get interviews or, I know a lot of geeky news, over the last couple of years. A lot of it has been very clickbaity.
Yeah.
One side, you're talking about, a lot of comicbooks.com would be a good example of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Or there's an anime site called Otaku Cart, and they've been announcing a sequel to Kill la Kill for the last 3 years now. That never actually happens.
Oh my god.
Or the other side, which is the YouTube, which is constantly following the drama. But it's exhausting following drama. I'm not mean spirited. I'm not going to say, oh, the SJWs are going to be destroying us all. Blah blah blah. It comes off as way too pretentious, and I don't have that much hatred on anything really at that point.
It's exhausting at that point, like living in the hate world, it's I totally understand it. Like it's much more fun. Like that's one thing that we do. We keep it light and fun, and it's a much better way of doing things, I think.
Yeah, reserve your energy.
Exactly, for when it's needed. But I've noticed that you guys have quite a big reach. Like even you go onto your link tree, and there is the channel, there's the Stitcher, there's the website. Your Twitter is most active. That's how I came across you guys at the first place. So where is the best place to kind of keep up to date with what exactly is going on, Sean, with the podcast?
It'd be mostly Facebook, Twitter. We're on most podcast devices except for Alexa, which I still haven't figured out how to do yet.
Right.
I think you have to have it on be on an American server or something to be registered with Alexa.
Right. That would make sense. Like, that wouldn't shock me. But it's pretty cool. So, is there anything that's coming up? Like, how often does the show drop for new listeners, and where's the best place to start with the show?
Best place, is probably the sort of the most recent episode where we talked to a YouTube channel called the Loading Party, and they do. They take geeky characters from pop culture and media, and they turn it into a D&D character. They talk
cool.
about the alignment of the characters. So we played a little game with them where we kind of threw them a loop, give them anime characters, and they had to figure out whether the character, due to the way that they were drawn. So some of them were cutesy characters where they're chaotic good. Or some of them, one of the people I showed him was Esdef, who's the villain from the comic A Kill, who is batshit crazy, and he said chaotic good.
oh, that's gas. That's super funny. Like I've noticed even on your YouTube, there's a bunch of content there as well. So it seems like you guys you're kind of everywhere. So yeah, like you type in Geek Eire podcast, and even going to the link tree, I think people will be in for a lot there. But is there anything you want to plug, sir, before we wrap it up?
Yeah, so we're starting to do sort of launch sort of essay video style stuff onto the YouTube channel, and for every video that we're going to be doing, we're basically going to be pimping out traders, artists, anyone that's been affected by this lockdown, essentially.
Yeah, and it's been tough. It's like there's a lot of people like I know yourself and ourselves have been hit by the cons being cancelled. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's great. That's great to see. Yeah. So like the channel is Geek Ireland Podcast on YouTube. When are you going to roll that out? Is it just something that's going to be announced soon, or
Well, I'm working on a video at the moment, so yeah, we're already in the process.
Excellent. All right. Well, look, when that comes out, we'll post a link to it, and want to thank you so much for taking time out today, Sean. We really appreciate it.
Cheers. Same to you guys.
All right, guys. We'll be back after this break. Thank you.
Join us at nerdtoknowmedia.com.